We'll call to order the Common Council meeting for September 2nd, 2014. Can we have invocation and pledge, please? Mr. Bobby Campbell.
Bow our heads. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you, God, how you continue to bless us and keep us. We thank you for your grace. We thank you for your mercy. We ask you to please be with our leaders. Continue to bless them, keep them healthy, protect their families, watch over them, give them the strength they need to be and to lead this community. We ask you to be with all our staff in the city, be with our mayor, bless him, bless all the staff, bless all of our first responders. And God, we ask you to continue to bless our community, bless all the persons that are present who think it's important enough to come out to understand what's going on with the business of this city. God, we've got a lot of persons who care about this city and they work awful hard. I ask you, God, to continue to watch over us and help us to be what you would have us to be. We also ask you, God, to continue to bless our nation. We pray, God, for those persons who are overseas, those reporters, the media persons who are at this time being used for examples. God, we pray for their families, pray for them. We pray, Lord, that you'll be with them. We thank you, God, that they're brave enough and thinking not robbery to go over to try to report back, to try to let us see the tragedies and the terrorists and the things they're doing to other people. But help us not to be blind, Lord. They need our prayers also. So we pray for their safety, pray for their families, pray for their strength. And we thank you, God, for all the persons who continue to work to do the things to help us to be a great nation. And we ask it all in the name of Jesus the Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Bobby. Roll call, please.
Councilperson Smith.
Present.
Councilperson Sestavny.
Here.
Councilperson Payne.
Here.
Councilperson Gill. Here. Council President Julius.
Here.
Councilperson Glover.
Here.
Councilperson Owen.
Here.
Councilperson Samuel.
Here.
Let the record reflect 8 council present, 1 councilperson absent, and that's Councilperson Sellers.
Thank you. Minutes to be approved from the regular council meeting, August 18th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Claims to be approved.
No, approve of the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of the agenda.
Number 7 and 8 under new business. I request they be removed after talking to Jacoby Tunes and Lands and the administration.
7 and 8.
Second. Oh, did you make a
I
motion?
don't think you made a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with changes.
No, second.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Now, claims to be approved.
I had one on page 12 out of the Lowett money. I believe, Amy, this should come out of the fire department budget. Looked like they built a storage building of some sort for $7,000.
Where is it, Mike?
It's on page 12 under Lowett. That should be under their regular budget. Built Right Express, I think it's just like a wooden storage building type structure.
I don't believe they have any capital in their general fund budget. We could do an additional.
I haven't had time to look at their appropriation, so I'm not sure.
What was this appropriation coming from?
A capital improvement line, I believe.
And have they spent anything out of that? I don't have a appropriations report in front of me, I'm sorry.
No, nothing has been spent. There's $7,000 appropriated in that line.
I'll wipe that.
Is that all you had, Mike?
That's just, so you want to move that and appropriate.
You want me to move it to the general fund then?
I mean, it was out of Lloyd.
Right,
There's a capital, not correct, there's a capital line
in Lowell.
item.
I had one question. Page 2 on the bottom. It's property and casualty for 8452, and it says the Palmer Corporation, but I thought we had that coming before us a couple months ago.
Which page?
Page 2, near the bottom. Second from the bottom. Looks like we're paying,
It's either deductible or the legal expenses for the.
legal expenses couldn't,
We have to pay.
We have to pay
We have to pay the legal services.
Palmer's legal
Yeah.
expenses.
well, I guess my question, if we're paying it to property and casualty, they had paid it, and then we're reimbursing them? Because if we have a $25,000 deductible,
Within 22, I think that policy is.
well, but still, it's under the 10.
If you want, I mean, I'm sure this is not time, since you just want to do that all of
Good, I'd just like some explanation on it.
Okay, Amy, I had a couple things. Is that all you had?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
On page 1, under the mayor, the Jeffersonville High School girls sponsorship for $250, there was nothing attached to that claim, Amy, so we need some information on that, if it's a sponsorship, if it's an ad, whatever that is, because there wasn't anything there.
Okay.
And then,
There's no ad on the dollars, it's just sponsorship. No ad.
okay, and then, Scott, the $95, I had discussion with you about the registration, remember? Right.
11. Yeah, I think Lisa had asked me about that, since technically he's listed as a employee of the sewer board. Salaries paid by the sewer board. She asked me, should that figure come from the sewer board funds? Because he's an employee of the sewer board, and I agree. If he's listed as a sewer board employee, 100% of his salary, that should be a sewer board expense.
And I didn't think that fee was appropriate for the promotion fund under the mayor, that's why I called Scott. And so, we may need to pull that, Scott.
I would recommend that if he's listed as a sewer board employee, that, to me, that's not an appropriate expense.
Okay. And then on page 5, Amy, it's under the Board of Public Works. We have, under Pro Media, it's under the August maintenance and Facebook. It's the 2760. But there was an email that was attached to that claim, and it said, per Judith, to establish a City Pride Facebook page and a Twitter account. But we don't know, has that been established? Because we have a contract for everything else with Pro Media. Is that going to be an ongoing fee? I mean, has that been established? I didn't know what part of that claim that was, so we need some more information. If you could
Okay.
just find that out. Judith wasn't in the office Friday when I was going through claims.
Okay, where's that at exactly?
It's on page 5. It's under under Board of Public Works. It's the very first one. It may not have been done yet, I don't know. It was just an email that was attached to the claim that said, per Judith, to establish a
So you
Facebook.
want to pull that until we get
Very bottom.
They
more
always-
information?
Well, it might need to be paid if it's part of our August.
They
If
always
that
send
part
what they
needs-
did every month in an email to me, just so we can attach it to the claim. So I think it was,
That is part of their, part of their.
Very bottom page. Yeah.
Nothing official.
No, what I'm saying, attached to that claim, there was an email. It said, per Judith, for Pro Media to establish a Facebook and a Twitter account for City Pride. So I didn't know if that was already done, if that's going to require a monthly fee. Is that something that,
No, there's no fees for Facebook or Twitter.
Why would we
We pay
establish something
$1,500 for
City
it.
Pride anyway?
You're not being billed anything additional. It's part of that, if you remember, when the new contract was signed with Pro Media, council requested that they do so much, $400 or $500 a month, maintaining the websites, and then
After that, then there was requests from certain council members that they wanted an itemized list of the things that they were doing for that portion of the contract as part of that itemized list. They're just listing the things that they get as part of that additional money that they're receiving for up above.
Okay, the email just said to establish, so I figured it was,
To establish an account that's not called a city, Facebook is free, Twitter is free.
I thought we paid a maintenance.
I know, but I don't understand why we're paying for city prides.
All we do is call Pro Media and ask them to set up an account for, we're not going to be maintaining those, Pro Media's not going to be maintaining those.
Okay,
So,
that's what we need to know.
well, with the city prize for the volunteers, that probably need a little assistance. That's why we're trying to help city prize.
Anything else? Did we have a motion?
I have a question. The transfer on page 8, the parks, just what is that for? That's for 200,000?
That is to support the expenditures out of the Parks Activities Fund, which is Fund 209. There's not enough revenue to support all the budget, so we had to move some cash out of gaming for that.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
The Parks Activity Fund, is that in the red?
Yes.
What did we start with that, beginning of the year?
38, excuse me, 38,000.
So that's River Stage and what is that?
River Stage is Fund 240. It's a separate fund. That is the aquatics, the ice rink,
Cash.
Ken Ellis, Smoking on the River, pretty much every
Cash-
parks
cash
activity
expenditures.
outside of River Stage.
Amy, real quick, when I'm going through they had the transfers, is there any way on the claims, because it'll just say, for that one, it just said transfer 200,000. So I went to Colleen and asked her what, because it was her name on there. And then I went to Bubby they had a 325,000 transfer. But Bubby wasn't sure what it was for, so I tracked down Becky and found, is there any way on the claims that you could put where it's coming from and where it's going? I mean, I'm sure when you log that in, you have to, can we carry that over onto the claims where it's coming from and where it's going on a transfer, especially that amount? Can that be done?
It is actually on here. It says to Parks 209 in the description.
Yeah, but
we can spell out, what the fund name is.
Yeah, when you go back through the claims, it's not on them, when you're going through all the claims, is what I'm getting at. Thank you.
And my last question, under the page 4, the transfer of 352,500, is that for fuel?
Out of vehicle maintenance, yes.
The very last one on that page. Okay. Thank you.
Do you have a new total?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a new total?
I don't. I'm not sure exactly.
Sounds like the one
The
wanted to
95.
pull was the 95.
What about the 84?
I have the total. I had a hand carry claim too that was the $16,050. There were a few emails that went out for the public arts project.
Did you pull the 84 off of that?
Yeah, the 84 has come
8,400?
off too.
From
Oh, okay.
the 8452.
And what was your hand-carried claim?
Of $16,050. So my original amount was $1,718,735.40.
Motion to approve the changes.
That's not the new total.
No.
That would have been your total with the hand carried claim
That's right.
minus the 95 minus the 8452.
Okay. Okay. 1,710,188.40.
Motion to approve is amended.
Second.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Thanks, Amy. Report of the clerk.
None at this time.
Unfinished business, Les.
This was introduced at the last meeting. This is a ordinance that we're trying to clean up some language in prior ordinances in reference to the longevity for city employees, which again is affecting fewer and fewer employees as time goes by. It's basically allowing us to prorate the payment of the longevity pay.
Any changes?
No, this is identical. It's the same as what was before you at the last meeting.
Motion to approve on the 3rd.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thanks, Les. New business, Mr. Bosley.
Good evening, I'm John Bosley, President and CEO of New Hope Services. I wanted to come by tonight and give you guys a heads up that it's our intent to apply for an owner-occupied repair grant for $350,000. I've been working with Shane Corbin. We've identified 17 homes in the city of Jeffersonville that are badly in need of repair, and the owners can't afford the repair. The grant's for $350,000, $25,000 max per household. And if we are able to help these 17 houses, that'll take all of the grant. We'll make the application sometime, probably in December, but I did want to give you a heads up now, primarily because everything in ICTA now is scored by a point system, and if the city contributes some match, we get more points, which makes it easier for us to get the grant approved. So at that time, when next time I come back, I'd like for you guys to consider maybe matching up to $25,000 for $350,000. I think that's a pretty good deal, and you get 17 homes badly in need of repair repaired.
And you've been working with Shane on this?
Yeah.
Has Shane identified the?
Yeah, I got the addresses on all the houses. We haven't contacted them yet. There's no sense in doing that until we get the grant approved. It's based on income, and they all have to be at 60% or below the area median income in order to qualify. As a matter of fact, Shane he's been to all the houses. We haven't even done that yet.
Okay.
But, we got on this topic because in getting to know Shane and him talking to me about the need for repair of homes in Jeffersonville became really blatantly obvious. And we've never done this before, but it's not something that we can do, I think, with no problem. So that's our intent.
Okay.
Will the 17 be homes through anywhere in Jeff, or is there a certain district they have
No,
to be in?
Shane identified the 17 worst homes
Okay.
that he could absolutely think of. And I'm talking about homes with tarps for windows because of fires, floors falling in, no gutters, no downspouts, bad situations. Situations where the person or people living there are maybe very old and also maybe disabled and can't really go anyplace else. And for those people, it's better off if we can repair their homes, that they stay right where they are and where they're comfortable.
After applying, when will we know if we received the grant?
The way it usually works, there's probably going to be a 60 to 90 day period before we're notified as to the success of our application.
What other steps, or are there other steps that we can take to help you in your point system in your application?
I'll have to think about that one. There might be some others.
Okay.
One thing I know, but it's a moot point, is that waiver of building permit fees up to $2,500 gets us more points. But in talking to Shane, there are no building permits required for repairs that aren't repairing structural damage or structural problems. So that's sort of a moot point. We'll have to dig into the grant app and let you know the answer to that question. But that's, any assistance we can get, obviously, it's appreciated. We're going to have to, I've already sent the letter to the mayor notifying him of our intent. It was just, we thought we were going to be submitting it sooner, and that's not going to happen. So that's that point. The other point while I'm here that I wanted to clear up is I think there were some questions concerning whether or not we pay property taxes on our tax credit apartment properties. We have 6 tax credit apartment properties. 2 of them are in Jeffersonville, 1 in Scottsburg, 1 in Clinton, Indiana, and 2 in Elwood, and we pay taxes for 15 years on those properties. The affordability period ends at the end of 15 years, and that's when we can tax exempt them. Ms. Hare's here tonight with me, and I would love to say that we don't, but we do. And we hear the 2, Quartermaster Court and Willow Trace, we pay about $15,000 a year on those 2 properties. I think that's pretty close. Also, while I'm here, I will tell you that it is our intent to do something with a Nightmare building. That's the only name I have for it right now. But we have an intent to try to work out a purchase agreement on that building and submit a tax credit app on that building November the 3rd. So that's why I'll probably be coming back next month to talk to you about that. I'll have color renderings of the building, and of course it becomes a complicated project because there are the other 2 pieces of property there, the old
F&T Tire.
Well, yeah, that one, and plus the Masonic Lodge that's structurally damaged and actually needs to come down. So we're trying to work with those guys to work out a deal to try to help them find a place to meet, because that's what they're looking for. And we're having an appraisal done on that building, and it's probably going to be upside down when it comes back, because the cost to knock it down is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $23,000. And we're trying to work with Chuck Latham on the tire building to either buy it and tear it down, or buy it and add it to the Nightmare somehow, in some configuration, to make it a community center or something like that. So that's a preliminary down and dirty on that for right now, but I'll have lots more specifics in October.
Okay.
Mr. Budget, I have a question. Have you had any discussions with redevelopment regarding all these properties and grant matches? I mean, depending on where the location of the buildings are, I mean, it could be within a TIF district, or...
you mean the homes?
The homes? Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't, and I'll have to ask Shane about whether they are or not, because they're all over the place. There's no one area or one common part of the city where these houses are located.
Sure. And then also the other buildings that you described, the Nightmare building and the tire, I believe that's in the UEZ, or no, it's in Intercity Road, TIF. So
it's in a QCT, I know that, which is probably better for us, because that bumps tax credits by about, I think it's maybe 20%.
I'm saying there's another avenue for you to consider for matching your grants that you've mentioned.
Okay. Now on the tax credits, on tax credit apps, we don't need any match.
Right. I understand. I'm talking for your
for the homes.
Because I know when I was in redevelopment way back when, we did do properties or residential properties. We did some apartments, redevelopment of some residential property, and that's why I bring it up.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions?
Mm-mm.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jim. Thank you. Amy Deering,
Does he need a letter of support?
do you need a letter, Jim?
Letter of support.
No, not now.
I thought you had already submitted it.
Well, no, the grant hasn't been submitted.
Okay.
We pulled it back because
Okay.
there's a requirement for public hearings, 2 public hearings, 1 before the grant's submitted and 1 while the grant is in process. And that's a new requirement. We didn't know it, so we pulled it back, and so we're going to wait and then get that 1 public hearing out of the way. And
Okay.
I'm going to work with Shane and see how we can work that in with, I don't know, planning and zoning.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Amy?
Yes, have an additional appropriation request. Would you like me to go down through these items? The first item was a request from Andy. He was out of overtime money, and then the associated costs with that, the Social Security and Empress. We are going to run out of postage money for the year. We're down to about 2,000 left. We've done about 90% of our budget, so that should carry us through the rest of 2014. The Steamboat next two items were the request to bump that budget up to 100,000. The spay and neuter item was just to appropriate the cash that is in that fund. The gaming was the 7,000 was for a River Stage mailer that went out, budget printing did, and the 5482 was for sod at Worley Park. The next item is just to appropriate the cash that's in the sidewalk 50/50 fund. And then the final item is the second half of the fire apparatus.
That's one vehicle, singular. It says vehicles.
That's the name of the account, was vehicles.
Okay, so that's the question I had. Thank you.
But it's just the other half for the ladder truck.
Right.
Amy, is the ADA in that 50/50, is that different?
Is it where? I'm
What
sorry.
what accounts the ADA in?
It's in the general fund.
Ordinance number?
What's the ordinance number?
46.
I have a question, Amy.
Uh-huh.
Do you anticipate having, you notice in some of these where you said you're 90% through or whatever,
Uh-huh.
do you anticipate, how many more additional appropriations are we anticipating as we go through the end of the year? I assume many more, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's hard to answer that right now, but I could look at the books and give you an idea, maybe at the finance committee or the next council.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve it on the first and second read ordinance 2014 OR 46.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Amy, on redevelopment TIF reports.
This is an annual report that's required by the state. It's the same format as what we did last year. It has to be reported through the gateway system by October 1st. It lists each TIF, the beginning of year cash, and all the revenues and expenditures with the ending year cash. And this is all 2013 data. And then at the bottom is a summary of all of our debt within the TIFs.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Under revenue for intercity road,
Yes.
I know we don't take in $21 million a year.
Right.
Is that some bond proceeds? And
Yes.
what is the normal, or what was what we took in revenue?
Tax revenue on intercity is about $7.5 million, and Falls Landing is about 2.2.
Thank you.
I think that's a good thing to point out. When you look at this and you see revenue, you see, for example, the revenue's over 21 million, but your revenue's actually 7.5 million, but the rest is borrowed money.
Mhm.
That's not really, I don't look at that, I guess you count it as revenue, but it's actually not.
Amy, could you take this revenue and at our next meeting, give us a list of bonds that are making some of these revenues up?
They should be there below. Under
2013.
intercity road, see all the ones that are 2013?
Series A, Series C.
It should be Series A through E. Series C, D, and E is actually for the police station. But I can present it again in a different format if you would like.
You say C, D, and E?
C, D, and E are police station, yes.
Are those funds expended, or are they showing in any of that revenue?
They're showing in the revenue, 'cause all those bonds closed in 2013.
I understand, but we're bound to have paid.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know how much the police station was paid in 13, probably a small amount. I think that's what you're asking of the expenditure number?
Yeah. It would just make it easier to have it broken down.
Yeah.
Just for total sake though, so revenue for the year at the TIF's bringing about $11 million.
Yes, the two large.
When you add them all together, I mean.
Okay.
870, 396, 172, 172, 7.5, and 2.2. And then if you total up all our outstanding obligation, I was just doing round numbers here, 48 million. Did you total it up somewhere? Actually I'm just kind of curious on what the indebtedness is for the TIF.
I didn't.
We don't have to sit here and do the math, we can do it some other times. We'll add it up sometime.
Okay.
Do you need action on this?
I think so.
Motion to accept or motion to acknowledge?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carries. Mr. Lewis, an ordinance authorizing fees for various city parks department events, programs, facilities, and merchandise.
Yes, and I apologize that this was originally not in the original packet that got emailed last week because I was awaiting the actual information from the Parks Department for the actual fees that they charge. But if you remember at one of the last, we had a special parks meeting back in the middle of August, and we were talking about that there are various fees over the years that the Parks Department charges at the different facilities and different merchandise, different events. And apparently there's never been an ordinance authorizing those fees. And if you look at the State Board of Account rules and standard law, that when a city directly charges a fee, you need to have what's considered an enabling ordinance to authorize those fees. So the language of this proposed ordinance, we talked about, it's necessary to comply with standard State Board of Account rules. And if you look at the Exhibit A, that was typed and presented to me directly from Paul Northam, our Parks Director. These are not new fees at all. These are fees that have been in existence currently and in the past, and some of them are arranged to give them some flexibility, but as indicated to me from Paul, if you remember we talked at the special parks meeting, these are fees that are already being charged, so they're not new. But we've never had an enabling ordinance to authorize said fees. So I know this wasn't in the original packet, so obviously it's not going to be asked to be passed on 3 readings tonight, so you may want time to consider that, but this is just purely kind of a bookkeeping measure to comply with State Board of Account rules. Whenever we charge fees, you have to have an ordinance authorizing that.
I know in the past, like when it comes to the dog park and things like that, we've discussed in meetings what the fees would be or a range of what the fees would be. Is that something that needs to be approved officially by the Parks Authority?
Well, I mean, technically, the Parks Authority can recommend it to the City Council, but my review of State Board of Accounts rules and the law, because it's still a city fee, that I believe that the City Council is the ultimate fiscal body for the city, has to authorize those fees. Obviously, that can be discussed and recommended at a Parks Authority meeting, but I believe that it's still legally the authority solely of the fiscal body, you guys, to authorize any fees, any of such fees for the city.
Okay.
That's why it's being presented to you all, because it's never been enacted on before.
On the Steamboat Days Festival, Scott, you may not be able to answer this, but we've got lanterns and lighters. What is lighters?
I wish I could answer that. This was just emailed directly from Paul Northam.
They're gonna have a ceremony, it's gonna be down at the river stage where you can purchase the lantern. There's gonna be a certain time that's gonna be in the program, and it'll be announced that these lanterns are gonna be released. And it said, well, we didn't know if somebody would have something that actually light the lantern, so we were gonna provide something for them. And so they said that, provide some lighters if somebody needed something to light their lanterns with.
You're talking to an old fireman over there. He's getting worried now.
Well, I know, but I'm saying we went through this with novelties lighters, which we outlawed in the city, but, no, I was just, I mean, I don't want to, I understand the lighter part. The lighters, I'm not sure. So if we give, if Ed buys a lantern and a lighter, would we be responsible if somehow that lighter causes him or his family harm? I don't,
Well, that's a good point. I mean, I don't know if that was discussed at the committee or not. I don't
I
attend those
didn't hear
committee
that
meetings.
discussion. I just heard them, that's why they,
Okay, I was at that meeting, I'm on the Steamboat Committee, and I actually brought up the fact they were saying, yes, let's get them, let's get the lighters, let's get the lanterns, and I said, I hate to be a killjoy, but I have heard that those lanterns
I know.
in parts of the United States are not exactly people don't like them because they can land on roofs and fields dry, and
is that the, what do they call them? They're actually lit,
they're lit.
and they go up, and there's actually
They
a
do.
flame.
made out of paper.
And they're going to be placed near the river, but
I don't-
depending on the wind and depending on a lot of different things, maybe in October it might be dry.
What out there, like,
What do they call it?
Yeah.
I know the fire chief
Something
So-
like
has
that.
real concerns about this, and I'm assuming that our
So I said, what should we do?
concerns too.
And they said, Paul said, I said, I would start with the fire department. So someone said, well, maybe we should talk to
It's like
Mike
setting,
McCutcheon.
looks like setting a bottle rocket off.
Well, exactly. So there is some, I'm more worried about not so much people burning themselves.
Paul
but
and Sarah
burning
just brought this
up
to the
property.
committee last time, so.
I mean, I've
I
seen
mean,
them,
you don't have
but I don't know a lot about them, but I'm not on the board, so I'm not trying to be a killjoy,
And
but I
me
do
too,
question.
but I just,
They're a valid question.
I wanted Mike McCutcheon to say it's okay.
Maybe we could just pass on first reading and get a clarification on
But I
it.
do believe that needs to be clarified. I agree that
I
there
think
may
it'd be
be
a
some, there may be
wonderful,
some liability
visually
risk
it would be
there.
wonderful, but if the
I
wind
agree.
blows to the north, it's going,
I agree. That needs
if
to
it blows
be
south or somewhere.
further
fine.
discussed as far as the lanterns and the
That
lighters.
thing's traveling.
And I would like to discuss with our insurance carrier.
Motion to pass, what's the ordinance number?
47.
2014 OR, what, 47?
Yes, sir.
On first reading.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? First reading. All right, we've got Scott again.
Yes, this next proposed resolution came out of that same special parks meeting when it was discussed about the content of the booths at the upcoming Steamboat Days Festival. If you recall at that special parks meeting a few weeks ago, I guess there was discussions at the festival committee that they preferred that the content, because I guess the theme of this Steamboats Day is going to focus on arts and crafts. They talked about that the booths would be arts and craft booths in addition to food vendors, and that political booths would be excluded. So that was kind of brought before the Parks Authority, and they voted to basically limit the content of the booths to the arts, crafts, and the food vendors, and to not have political booths. And then there was discussion that I would work on a resolution, bring it back to you all to authorize that with the provision, I know Matt had brought it up, to make sure that we're not prohibiting political free speech. And when you read this resolution, it speaks about the content of the arts and crafts, or excuse me, the booths will be limited to arts and crafts with the exclusion of political booths. But we do have a specific paragraph which I believe will protect any concerns about political free speech, which we cannot infringe upon. But there's a paragraph that says the exclusion political booths from the festival shall not prohibit the political free speech of any individual or group, and any individual or group may freely display or disseminate protected political free speech at the festival. So obviously we cannot prohibit people from wearing political materials, campaign shirts, or certain candidates or other political groups passing out political literature. That is something that you cannot prohibit. But my review of Indiana law, constitutionally, you can limit the type of booths because the festival is going to be limited to or be themed as an arts and craft festival.
Scott, where it says with the inclusion of food vendors, do we have to mention in here, because Sarah stated she has a vendor that, I guess they go through him and then he decides what food booths can, isn't that true? I didn't know what the name of that vendor was. Is that something we would have to mention in here or not? Because I don't want
because,
people
I mean,
thinking just a food vendor can go down there, because by ordinance we say inclusion.
Yeah, well, my understanding was that the way the materials are sent out, the applications, it's kind of specific on the artisans and the food vendors. And Yeah, because that was one thing why this was also not in the package. I was waiting on that information to look at how their applications were turned for the type of booths, the artisans and the food vendors. So the way that's described, the Parks Department makes the decision after those applications are sent in. So that's already been authorized for them to make the individual decision. This is just the general resolution limiting the content of those booths. But I think this balances out what the committee and the Parks Authority voted on to exclude political booths, yet this also protects political free speech.
Should a copy of this
event.
go to the vendor?
To go where?
Whoever the vendor that they, like a contractual vendor, whoever we would contact, maybe a copy of this should go to them just so they know.
Yeah, I mean, we can give it to
I'll discuss
the
with
Parks
Sarah.
Department, and because they're the ones taking the application for the booths, and we can let them address that.
The only thing I'll add to this is be careful what you ask for, because with a booth, you collect that political party or that booth in an area. And if a person doesn't want to frequent that area, they have the right not to. If you say you can have a booth, but you're able to walk through the crowd and practice your free speech, rest assured that people will be walking through the crowd practicing their free speech.
Well, that's their right.
I'm not disagreeing. What I'm saying, though, is if you can contain it in one area, which with a booth you can, if you pass this, then you're pushing all of that free speech out into
Scott,
the
you can't
entire
limit
area.
the free speech.
But I believe, I understand your
I'm not
concern.
disagreeing with that.
But even if you say there's political booths, I don't think you could even write it that all the political speech is limited to that booth. I don't think you can.
Well, that's not what he's saying. He's
You
just saying
can't
generally
limit it, but
candidates will
that
hang
would
around the
be-
booth.
Right, that would
If
be
they have
where
a booth.
it would be contained.
You would have a booth,
Naturally.
and all of that jargon would be contained in that area. If you do not allow that area, then you have to be ready for it to be everywhere within Steamboat Days.
But even with the booth, I mean, legally, they can be everywhere anyway. I mean, it's going down the street and all that. I mean, you can't stop that.
But most people are respectful enough to stay in that particular area.
I understand the concern. I'm just saying legally, I don't think you can stop it anyway.
As somebody who, obviously ran for political office, there's nothing I hate more about campaigning than doing booths at festivals. But at the same time, to exclude political parties from allowing their candidates to make themselves available 3 weeks before an election, whatever election it may be, off-year election, presidential election, it doesn't matter, I think is insane.
I think that if we're going to exclude businesses that aren't arts and crafts, then it's only fair for politicians to be excluded as well. So I support it the way it is.
Well, and just real quick, when you say they're excluded from the event, no politician or anyone that wants to exercise free speech is excluded from the
They're
event.
excluded from providing a single opportunity, a single platform, where people can come and get educated on who's running for office. There's not going to be one single place in the festival where people can do that. And they do that at every other festival in the county. They do that at Sellersburg Celebrates. They do that at the 4-H Fair. They do that at Clarksville. Limited their politics to one booth per party, but they still, made that arrangement for people to come and educate themselves on the issues before an election.
They don't do it at Art and Speed Park.
Which
Art and
is
Speed Park.
at the same time as Sellersburg Celebrates.
They don't do it at Chautauqua at Steamboat Days.
That's
There's
also,
probably a few exceptions.
that's
but
also a
not-
private nonprofit group that puts that on, but
I don't know.
okay.
I don't know.
48, I think.
17.
Oh, 17, my bad, I was going.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve 2014 R-17.
Second. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
All right, Mr. Lewis, you're popular tonight. Appointment to the County Board of Building Authority trustee.
Yes, this came to the county's attention. They asked me to put this on the agenda. Apparently, the current Indiana code regarding city-county building authorities, back when the county government building, which is now called the Clark County Government Building, but it used to be the joint city-county building, the Indiana code regarding the trustees, the board of trustees for that building authority, that code has never been amended or contemplating when a city is bought out and then it's just the county. So under current Indiana code, which my understanding is it's in the process of being amended for next year, but the Board of Trustees for a building authority, and this was contemplated when cities were involved with the county, there's 5 members. And for this Board of Trustees, 1 member is appointed by the county fiscal body, which is the county council. 2 members are appointed by the county executive body, which is the county commissioners. 1 member is appointed by the municipal executive of the county seat, which is the mayor of Jeffersonville. And then the remaining members appointed by the municipal fiscal body of the county seat, which is the city of Jeffersonville. And apparently for the last couple of years, back when the city was bought out by the county, apparently no one has been appointing under the statute the appointments that need to be made by the mayor and the fiscal body of the city. So my understanding is the mayor recently, that was brought to his attention, he's made his appointment. So this board's been operating with 3 people for the last several years.
I think someone was giving someone incorrect information on.
Yeah. So after research done by the county and talking to the state, that this statute is still in effect until it's amended. So even though the city has no interest in the county building, there are still 2 appointments that have to be made by the city. And this Board of Trustees, their only duties, they meet once a year. And the Board of Trustees, they appoint the Board of Directors of the Building Authority. And there's 5 members of the Building Authority. So the Building Authority, the Board of Directors of the Building Authority actually is a board that handles the day-to-day operations of the county building, the operations, the maintenance, all of that. So the Board of Trustees, under the law, it's an archaic law that goes back to the 50s and 60s. Board of Trustees meets once a year to appoint the 5 members of the Board of Directors. So you all have an appointment, and this has been brought up that they need to fill that appointment. So, and I know there's been some discussions, I think
Yeah.
they had suggested someone they've talked to.
I love this. This government at its best. Appoint a board that appoints a board.
But this law is being amended, so my understanding is next year you won't have to do this, because I think the law is going to amend it where it's all county appointments, because it's a county building now, because they've divested the city's interest several years ago.
So I'd like to nominate Shell Law. It's my understanding that Connie spoke to the majority of you all, and she spoke to Shell. She's willing to serve. I think, did she talk to you all? She said,
She called me. I'll second the nomination.
I'm good with it. She did not talk to me.
I'm so sorry, Nathan.
I just
Didn't me either.
let everybody know.
Did you want to sit on this?
No. I had a potential name.
That might be my, she probably said, you might want to mention something to make sure I got everybody. I'm sorry, I didn't think of that.
No offense.
Would you want to nominate somebody else?
No.
it's-
I'll go with
it's,
this group. I'll go with the group.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Thanks, Scott.
All right, thank you.
All right, department heads. I see Chris Grimm, but we don't have Chris. We got Greg.
I'm here tonight to request funding from Lloyd for officer-worn body cameras. I'm sure you've all seen the recent events that have gone on. Law enforcement is changing a lot. There's a lot more scrutiny. We're looking at these to outfit all the uniform officers to allow us to be able to show things out, how they happen from our point of view. So I apologize, I don't have a lot of information. The chief was planning on coming, but he had something come up that he had to attend, so I kind of got this last minute. But I can do my best to answer your questions.
Did he discuss with you, because I replied an email back to him and included everybody that make sure we have a solid policy in place?
We're looking at sample policies now.
Okay.
There's several of them out there, and we're kind of looking and seeing what is out there and looking to piece one together that suits our needs.
And then also, I just wanted to pass on, I'm for whatever protects our officers, but I by no means want our officers to think that we're doing this because we don't. Because in light of what's going on in the news today,
Right.
I don't want them to think any of us up here do not trust our officers, because we absolutely do.
And that's the reason we're pushing for this, is because we think that it will benefit the officer. There's you've seen a lot of cell phone videos where an officer's in an altercation and it's taken from across the street. And you see the officer maybe go up and take somebody to the ground. And you don't see what that person's doing. You can't make out what they're doing from that video. You may not see that this guy's taking a fighting stance, has a clenched fist, or is clenching his teeth, and, he's non-compliant. You can't hear the dialogue. So something like this would at least give that officer's point of view. If in the event you see that and you end up taking someone to the ground before they ever try, you don't have to wait for them to try to hit you before you take action. If you have all these verbal cues and somebody that's non-compliant, sometimes you have to be preemptive. And, at least we're hopeful that this can help show some of that, because it's right up on top of you. It has the audio, and it gives a better picture of what we're looking at versus poor cell phone video from across the street.
And I'm sure you did a lot of research into the vendor and the camera itself, because we had an issue with our dash cams.
Yes,
that's right.
we've looked, we've talked to, Clarksville currently wears them, and they've had 2 different vendors, and they've had problems with them. A lot of the problems they've had is they're very large and bulky. You get in a fight, they get torn off, they tear clothing, you take off running, it'll fall off. These here are actually worn on your belt and has a small camera that is wired that runs up to your shirt and clips to the front of your shirt. But it's just a little bit bigger than my thumb. That's all that's out there. We've looked at other vendors. Some of the cost it's a third party that does the data storage. The concern there is, could it become a chain of custody issue? Because a third party is keeping all your video. I think there's a potential there that could happen. Also, the cost is unbelievable. This system here also comes with it's kind of like a kiosk. It has a place to dock 20 of these. You come in, you plug it in, and it will instantly download to the kiosk, and it's all in-house. So there's no third-party vendors to deal with. The third-party ones, it's the more your database grows, the more the cost grows. So this is the least expensive option, and of the ones we've looked at, the ones that I think are going to be best suited, the camera itself has I believe it's 180-degree, kind of like a fisheye lens, so it actually sees out to the sides, not just straight ahead. So obviously these things aren't going to be an answer for everything. Some things are going to happen off a camera, but the cost of this, if this could prevent one lawsuit, you will more than get your money back with the price of what this is.
What's the maintenance agreement or
there is
warranty
attached, there's a 1-year warranty. Some of the information, there's the papers I handed you, there should be a terms and condition of sale. It explains some of that. I'm not real familiar with all of it, but I know there is a 1-year warranty on it. You can purchase an extended warranty.
And that was one of the things the chief brought up to me when he caught me in City Hall the other day, was that this was something they were looking at, this vendor in particular, because there wasn't that ongoing maintenance fee.
Oh, good.
There wasn't that ongoing storage fee. It was all on-site storage.
Right.
Whereas most of the other vendors were charging for storage.
Yeah, it's stored through the cloud, and,
yeah.
And like I said, I think an issue you may run into down the road could be chain of custody issue, because you're not maintaining that. You don't know who they have that's maintaining that database. So
and if you look in the news today, the cloud's been hacked, and people steal things. And
right, and this is all done. You plug it into this kiosk, and it downloads straight to that.
Right.
I think $40,000 is a small price to pay to ensure that cops aren't going to be blamed for something they didn't do, and to ensure the liberties of the residents of Jeffersonville. So I want to make a motion to approve this.
I'll second.
I've got a question. What does it say? On the contract? It's got a 12-month warranty with the exception of batteries, chargers, and holsters and cables. But I can see this getting pretty beat up, because wonder what it would cost. Did we get a price on an extension for another year? If it's pretty reasonable.
We can check on that. I don't have that information right now. I don't know.
I can see these getting.
You talk about warranty?
Yeah. I can see these are going to get pretty,
And it's cheaper to buy that warranty up front.
And the hope is the extension, you can wear these cameras. We've chosen the option to wear it on your belt and have the small camera here, because it is extremely cumbersome to try to wear a bulky camera somewhere on your shoulder. It, like I said, we wear our lapel mics for our radios on a shirt, and I don't know how many times I've taken off running, it comes flopping off and it's gone. Same thing in a fight, it gets ripped off. So this is a lot less, it's a lot lower profile. So hopefully it stays safer, but if that gets damaged, it's a lot cheaper to replace that little cable with the camera than replacing the whole camera unit itself.
I think they pretty well cover themselves. The last paragraph states, warranty does not cover abuse.
I have a legal question. From a legal perspective, do you recommend these or don't recommend these?
I would recommend them. I mean, the last 20 years, I saw all the time, the dash cams law, it was a good tool to deter frivolous invasive lawsuits, and also, I think, facts that also protect individuals' civil liberties. But I think these, they can take it a step further. It would be a very good tool for us to prevent frivolous invasive lawsuits that may arise.
If I'm a citizen and I feel like I was roughed up or mistreated or verbally abused, if nothing else, do I have the right to come back to the city and say, give me the video off of this officer?
It's a public record, and as long as it's not part of an ongoing investigation, we would have to give it over. Obviously, if litigation would commence, then obviously it'll be part of the discovery process.
Yeah.
And that's why I do believe that the assistant chief makes a good point, that it makes sense for us not to have a third party involved in storing the data, because then we would have, obviously, a plaintiff's attorney or a criminal defense attorney going to try to argue the issue with
I have two more questions. One deals with you kind of alluded to it, Assistant Chief, the amount of equipment that all the officers already have on them. They have tasers, guns, mics up here, and radios, handcuffs, probably other stuff I don't even know. And now you're adding another apparatus or piece of equipment.
Right.
What do they want that? I mean, is that going to hinder
You're going
them?
to you'll find mixed results. A lot of guys are for it, but there's some guys that just don't like the idea of being videotaped.
Will this be, okay, if I may, will this be, if you've got 6 officers that don't want to wear this because of whatever reason, is it going to be mandatory?
This will be
required?
mandatory, yes. It will be mandatory for everyone.
And that can be handled through a standard operating procedure?
Yes.
Doesn't have to go before an
Right.
FOP vote?
Right.
Call a question.
Real quick,
I have one more
I think part of the motion, you need to identify what fund.
That was my last question, is this in the budget?
If there's a budget, not, then we'll have to be advertised
Well-
as official corporation unless there's a line item somewhere.
We're asking for the money out of Lloyd.
There's 16,900 was appropriated in safety equipment. I don't know if that's, if they have something they want to spend that on or not.
It's in Lloyd?
There's how much?
16,900.
That wouldn't,
It won't cover it.
so we'll have to do an additional appropriation.
Right.
For the difference, or you want to?
Unless the chief has it in his budget somewhere, I don't know. Somewhere else.
Non-reverting funds? What, have you got access to non-reverting? I think we support getting it, we're just trying to figure out how to finance it.
I think the price is very reasonable for 60 officers.
But I would, curiosity, like to know what it would cost to get an extension on the warranty.
We can find that out. We
If
can
it's
email the
reasonable,
company
we
and
need
talk
to
to them.
consider doing that,
Okay.
because these are going to be,
Greg, did you all do any research on how long these have been in the field?
I've been reading a little bit on them. There's not really a lot of, I remember seeing them come out probably 4 or 5 years ago is when you first
Well, but I
started.
mean, this particular,
I don't know about this company.
Yeah.
I do not know that.
I was just curious of life expectancy on these units, whether it's a year or 2 years.
I think they're still new enough to where it's hard to really pinpoint it.
And real quick, I guess these aren't going to be assigned to a certain officer. They're going to be in a pool, I would take it, correct?
No, each officer we have 52 officers assigned to patrol. Every one of them will be issued one of these. This will leave us a few extras that in the event we have an overtime detail or somebody who, detective comes out, they won't be assigned one because the nature of their job, it's not, they're not out there as much. Most of their stuff is done in-house. But in the event that they need one, if they're going out to serve a warrant, if they come out to work an overtime shift on the street, that they can pick up a spare and have access to it. Or in the event that somebody's does break, there's no lapse, we can issue them a different one while theirs is being repaired.
Are they always recording, or do you have to turn them on? Or?
My understanding is they are constantly on and recording, but they do not store the data until you push the button to store it. I think maybe it backs up for a few seconds. When you hit it, it backs up and starts recording a few seconds previous to when you hit the button.
I think that's why it's important that we have a policy, we adopt a policy that basically outlines when they're turned on there. Make sure we don't have a situation where we have these cameras, we don't collect the data.
And again, that'll be through an SOP, not,
What you got, Amy, on?
Daughter Burning doesn't have the appropriations to support it. So I can ask for the entire amount or net out that $16,900. You may talk to the chief and see if he has.
how much of that 16,000, what's the percentage left?
Started out at $81,500.
I'll make a motion to, I know, but we have to know where the money's coming from. I mean, I was just gonna make a motion to go ahead and advertise for additional appropriation out of Lowit up to 40, whatever the amount is, 40,000,
285.95.
285.95.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Then I think there was another motion on the floor that still needs to be acted on. Did we ever vote?
It was our understanding.
We have to wait. Withdraw, okay.
Okay, I'll withdraw my motion.
Withdraw my second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Was there any,
If you would, I would like to see one, maybe you can bring it in.
yeah, that'd be great.
Policy on it.
Did we have any other department heads sign up?
No.
Okay. No public comment? Mr. Smith?
No, sir.
Mr. Zaswani?
Just one quick thing. I forgot to mention during the minutes, approving the minutes, there's a small correction on page 7. It's for the minutes of August 18th. On page 7, halfway in the middle, like paragraph 3, sentence 4, it says the current weight scale is slowing things down. It should be wage scale. Wage scale. W-A-G-E, wage.
W-A-G-E.
W-A-G-E, yeah.
Wage. I didn't type.
Wage scale, that's right. I just wanted,
I don't know what it says.
just wanted to get it
Wage?
straight. Wage. Yep.
Okay, wage. Thank you.
Okay, that's all, thanks.
It's on page 7,
Jack?
paragraph.
No comment.
Sentence 4.
No comment.
Mr. Glover?
Nothing.
Mr. Owen?
I'm good.
Oh, we knew that, but it was going too well.
I just need to announce that we're having 4 of the crosswalks painted of the intersections, either September 14th, that's a Sunday, or September 28th is the drop back date if it's rain or other inclement weather on September 14th. The artists are going to start at 6 in the morning. The streets will be closed during this, obviously, and they're going to go till noon. And if you start at Riverside Drive, that would be the first, down by Cluckers and the Overlook, then move up 3 more blocks. Those are the intersections, and all 4 crosswalks at each will be done. So you may, September 14th or 28th, you may drive by, and it ought to be a great, fun time. That's all I have.
Okay. I only had one thing. A month or so ago, the YMCA Joe LaRocca came in and asked us for a match for the pedestrian walkway behind the Y. it evidently is done or very close, and I've got a claim to turn in to Amy for the $10,000 we pledged. So, anyway, that's it.
Motion to
Motion
adjourn.
to adjourn.